David and the Warm Light. On a quiet, chilly night, in the middle of a sleeping city, a thin gray dog walked alone. His name was David. David was hungry. His paws were tired, his belly empty, and his heart a little sad. He hadn't eaten in days, and the city lights seemed too bright and too cold. As he wandered through a dark alley, David heard noises, growling, barking, and a soft cry. He turned his head and saw a terrible sight. A small orange kitten, named Ken, was cornered by a group of large black dogs. Ken was trembling, his fur messy and torn. The black dogs barked loudly, pushing him back. Ken cried, afraid and hurt, with no one to help. David stopped. He watched, but he felt too weak. He lowered his head and kept walking. His legs shook. He was just too hungry, too tired. Behind him, Ken cried louder. But something inside David pulled him back. He turned around and ran. David barked loudly and rushed toward the group of black dogs. Startled, the dogs growled but slowly backed away, confused by his bravery. With the last of his strength, David grabbed Ken by the scruff and ran, faster than he thought he could. They escaped. Ken was still scared, limping a little, but he looked at David with wide, thankful eyes. Then something strange happened. Ken saw David's face, and it looked just as sad as before. David was shaking not from fear, but from hunger. Ken meowed softly and began to walk. "Follow me," he seemed to say with his tiny paw. Together, they reached a little butcher shop at the corner of the street. The shop was glowing with warm, golden light. Outside, sitting alone on a wooden chair, was an old man in a red apron. His name was James. James had kind eyes, but a quiet heart. His children lived far away, and his days were often lonely. That night, just as James was about to close his shop, he saw David standing outside, cold and shaking. David slowly stepped forward and gently raised his front paw, begging. James blinked. He stood, walked to the door, and smiled. Moments later, David sat in front of the shop, happily eating a warm piece of chicken. Ken watched from the side, his tail wrapped around his small paws. David looked up at James and wagged his tail. For the first time in a long time, he was full. He was safe. From that night on, David returned to the butcher's shop every morning and evening. James always had a bit of meat ready, and sometimes a gentle pat on the head. As days passed, James and David grew closer. They shared quiet mornings, peaceful evenings, and soft music from the old radio inside. James didn't feel lonely anymore. David didn't feel hungry anymore. And though Ken, the little orange kitten, had gone on his own journey, David never forgot how kindness had brought them all together. And so, David the dog and James the butcher lived happily, side by side, sharing food, warmth, and friendship every day.